It was 3 years ago on a Thursday afternoon where my life changed in an instant. I was sitting in the car, looking out the window, watching the raindrops race each other down the glass. When all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my ear popped. And then, silence. Not a muffled sound, no faint echo, just silence. Except for a long, sharp ringing sound that filled my head. Panic surged, and I did what any 13-year-old with an iPhone would do. I Googled it. WebMD had a blunt response: hearing loss. And for once, WebMD wasn't overreacting. The weeks that followed were a mix of confusion and wrong answers. Doctors thought it might be ear infections and allergies. I was prescribed medications, fluid drainage, and told to just wait it out. Nothing worked. Finally, I went to go see an ENT specialist, thinking I'd get a clear, smooth, easy fix. Instead, an audiologist delivered news I was not ready for. I had been diagnosed with sudden sensorineural hearing loss, and its effects were permanent. An extremely rare condition had left me deaf in 1 year. The next months were exhausting in every possible way. High-dose steroids turned my emotions upside down. Hyperbaric therapy meant hours each day in a pressurized chamber, hoping oxygen would mend my damaged ear back to life. Then came the hearing aids, 4 different kinds. Each promised clarity, but none delivered it. A year and a half later, I went into surgery for a cochlear implant. That moment was both hopeful and terrifying. People think you get a cochlear implant, turn it on, and start hearing normally again. But that's not how it works. Imagine every sound you know, every voice, every note, every laugh replaced by robotic beeps you can't understand. Adapting to my cochlear implant has been an extremely tiring and humbling process, like trying to read a book with the lights off. For someone who has never heard before, a cochlear implant is a miracle. But for someone like me, who heard perfectly my whole life, it's hard to turn it on and know that that's your best option. Following the implant, I've started audio-verbal therapy to teach my brain to understand the mechanical sounds I'm hearing. Each session requires an immense amount of focus and effort as I try to relearn how to hear. Conversations that had once come easily now feel like puzzles I'm constantly trying to solve. But the smallest victories, like catching a sentence without repetition, or hearing my friend's joke clearly for the first time, feel monumental. High school has become an uphill climb, and I am inching up it at a snail's pace. Advanced classes are demanding enough, but adding in the difficulty of trying to follow complex discussions in a noisy classroom or trying to hear in a cafeteria full of clattering trays and laughter is overwhelming. My social life also shifted in ways I didn't expect. I often feel lonely and like no one truly gets it. An NIH study found that for every decibel decrease in hearing loss, there's a 7% chance increase of developing severe loneliness. Teachers want to help, but don't always understand what I need. And friends don't know how isolating it feels to be on the edge of every conversation, pretending to understand while secretly piecing together fragments. I learned the subtle art of nodding, smiling, and blending in, even when inside I felt set apart. But I have to acknowledge that I haven't been climbing this hill completely on my own. Along the way, I've had an incredible team of people who've been there for me, noticed me, and cheered me on at every small victory. My audiologist in ENT has spent countless hours helping me navigate the more medical side of my journey, while my audio-verbal therapist spends week after week with me as I relearn how to hear. At school, my counselor and associate principal always do everything they can to make sure I get what I need. And at home, my family supports me through the hardest times, but reminds me to celebrate the happy ones too. The truth is, everyone hears and adapts differently to the cochlear implant. but I tried my best to make a simulation of what it sounded like for me, and I'll play it for you today. So you'll see the sentences of what the recording is saying, and you can try to piece it together in your head. As difficult as that sounds, the hardest part isn't the hearing loss itself. It's the fact that no one can see it. It's invisible. Teachers, friends, and even people who care about me deeply don't always know what I'm dealing with or how to help. That invisibility changed me. I started to notice how many people are quietly navigating their own challenges, ones you'd never guess from the outside. It made me more observant, more patient, and more willing to pause before making assumptions. That invisibility changed me. I realized empathy isn't about saying, I know exactly how you feel. Most of the time, we can't know. Empathy is about showing up anyway. It's about listening, it's about rushing to respond. It's about making space for someone else's experience, even when it's completely different from your own. This shift in perspective has touched every part of my life. It's changed how I lead, how I build friendships, how I step into new situations. And it's taught me adaptability, not just the practical kind, like finding the best spot in a room to hear, but the kind that comes from adjusting your mindset and asking yourself, what might I not be seeing? And it's taught me a new way to think about recovery. We often imagine recovery as going back to where we were before, regaining what was lost. But for me, recovery hasn't been about going back, because I can't. It's been about moving forward with new tools, a new self-awareness, and a deeper understanding of others. Growth that isn't visible on the outside, but completely reshapes you on the inside. I don't share my story for sympathy. I share it because perspective is powerful. The loss of my hearing has given me a lens I wouldn't trade. One that sees difference not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to connect more deeply with others. Invisible challenges deserve recognition just as much as visible ones. And empathy is something we can all practice daily by listening, by noticing, and by choosing to care even when it's inconvenient. Real inclusion starts with a decision to pay attention to what we can't immediately see. Because in the end, everyone is recovering from something. Everyone is carrying a story that shapes how they move through the world. And when we take the time to see each other fully, not just on the surface, but the quiet battles underneath, we build communities where people aren't just accommodated, but genuinely accepted. The loss of my hearing has sharpened my vision in a whole new way. It now helps me see the invisible. I urge each of you to practice noticing what lies outside of your line of sight. Because sometimes it takes losing your hearing to truly listen. Thank you.